Despite a ton of good news coming out for CrowCoin since the beginning of the year, the price action has not been as kind to this altcoin as it finds itself down about 10% in the past 7 days and down over 23% in the past month. So in today's episode of the Everything Crypto Show, we are going to recap all the good news that has come out for this project, discuss why I believe it has been dropping despite the good news, and what I believe could be coming next for this altcoin. Now, before we hop into the content, just a friendly reminder that I am not a financial advisor, nor do I offer any sort of financial advice on YouTube. I am simply here for your crypto news and entertainment purposes. And if you do find the videos informative and or entertaining, please consider hitting that sub and like button and turn that notification bell on so you can be notified when all of our latest videos go live on the channel. Now, with that out of the way, we are going to hop into today's content, and I do want to discuss CrowCoin as we have seen a ton of good news come out for this altcoin, well, really just over the past month since 2024 began. However, if you just took a look at this chart, you would not think that was the case, as it is down almost a quarter here, just about 25% over the past 1 month. So we're going to start off by taking a look at the good news, which I do think is important to actually take a look at, especially in times like this when the price action is not ideal, to remind yourself of why you are actually invested in this project in the first place. Now, the first piece of good news here is that we are seeing record amounts of CrowCoin being burned, okay? And this is in accordance with the 50 million burn that they did actually complete. I believe it was in December. And basically, this is the burn wallet right here. And every time it does reach that 50 million threshold of CrowCoin sitting in the wallet, they then burn that Crow and basically remove it from the float completely. So we saw the first 50 million burn take place at some point last month. And this wallet is now back up to 15 million Crow once again. Here is the actual community burn proposal right here. And yeah, basically you can see here that if we are going to keep going at this rate, it looks like we are going to see these burns take place, give or take, every 3 to 4 months, which basically means that year over year, about 200 million Crow will be burned and removed from the float. Now, if we consider the circulating supply sitting at about 26.4 mil, the total supply at above 30 bill, sorry, not 26.4 mil, it's billion. These burns definitely could be bigger, and I do hope to see some bigger burns in the future, but this definitely is a step in the right direction in my opinion. And burns for tokens generally do act as a pretty positive catalyst in terms of the price action. Now, the second thing that I do think it is important to remember about CrowCoin is that we have seen a massive jump in the amount of Crow actually delegated to the Cronos POS chain. And it is actually now locked up here, earning about a 5.5% yield. Now, we spoke about this on the channel when it happened last week. And effectively what happened here is Crypto.com took a bunch of the Crow that was being staked for the Visa, and they actually moved it here onto the Cronos POS chain, and they're basically distributing that yield back to the Visa holders. And that is what actually caused a massive inflow of Crow into the Cronos POS chain. In fact, if we take a look here at the 30-day performance for, let's go staked Crow, we can see a massive jump here from 6.8 billion up to, now we're sitting at about 9.1 billion more or less. However, we can take a look at the very obvious inverse correlation between the amount of staked Crow and the actual reward rate of Crow. So on January 14th, actually, let's go back to the 13th. So on the 13th, there was about 6.8 billion Crow staked, and the staking yield was coming in at 7.3% per annum. And then we actually saw this jump up to over 9 billion, and the reward rate dropped to about 5.5%, basically within the matter of just a couple of days, okay? And the reason for this is the more Crow that is currently being staked on the network, the more Crow that is being kind of spread out. The rewards are being distributed amongst more people. And that is why as the yield goes up for the Cronos POS chain, or sorry, as the amount of Crow staked goes up, the yield goes down. However, there is kind of like a catch-22 when it comes to this. And, in this scenario here, the big thing is that it is bullish. It is generally good for a token to see a lot of it locked up and staking to the network, especially when staking your tokens does subject them to something of an unbonding period. And the reason being, right, is because if you can stake one of your tokens, any of your altcoins, or whatever it is you're staking, and you can withdraw it immediately, there's basically no reason not to stake it, as you are going to get these rewards back. You can get them back whenever you want, even as you are earning that yield. However, if there is an unbonding period, if there is a lockup period on the crypto you are staking, it's more likely that somebody staking their CRO is going to be a long-term holder, right? Basically acknowledging that if you lock up this CRO for that yield, it is locked up or subject to some sort of unbonding period before you can get it back. And in the case of the Cronos POS chain, that bonding period, or that unbonding period, is 28 days. So if you want to get this CRO back, you have to wait 4 weeks to get it back in your wallet after unstaking, at which time no staking yield will be distributed to your wallet if you are choosing to unbond it. And that's why I do take a look at the growth of the Cronos POS chain, because I do think it's pretty safe to assume that majority of the CRO locked up here is long-term holders for the most part. And yeah, this is now looking, we're looking at over 33% of all CRO circulating actually currently locked up on this chain. And in response to this massive decline in the yield, we actually did see an article from the Cronos POS chain. And what they're basically looking to do is increase the inflation of CRO coin once again to offer a higher staking yield. And there are 3 key parameters to this. They are basically looking to increase the inflation max, the inflation rate change, and the bonded goal. And if you want more detail on this, I actually covered this in last week's video. It's pretty technical, but basically the TLDR is they're looking to essentially increase the inflation max and the inflation rate. And the goal bonded is, it basically says that, once the desired staking ratio hits for Cronos, which was set to 30%, the inflation rate adjusts in response to that target. The inflation rate will increase up to inflation max if the actual staking ratio is below the goal. So what they are looking to do is actually update the goal bonded as right now, because it has basically breached that 30% threshold. There has actually been a decrease in the inflation rate. So they're looking to once again increase the inflation to offer a higher yield. I do still think that offering 5.5% is a pretty good yield there simply for holding your CRO coin. So I personally am more in the favor of slowing the inflation rate and increasing the burns that are taking place. However, we're going to see the outcome of the vote, and it does appear like as of right now, that vote is most likely going to pass. And last but not least, we did see in mid-December that Cronos Labs is launching the Cronos Hyperchain testnet. Now, this is a pretty big deal, okay? This is essentially like a layer 2 for the Cronos chain, a layer 2 rollup network on top of the Ethereum Sepolia testnet at the moment. It is not in the mainnet. That is most likely coming in June of 2024. And the Cronos ZK EVM is basically a part of, or their kind of entry into the ZK Sync Hyperchain ecosystem in order to further broaden the user base and make it easier to move liquidity back and forth between Ethereum and the Cronos chain. So this means CROcoin will now be the native token of Crypto.com, as well as 3 different blockchains, including the Cronos POS chain, which we just discussed, the Cronos EVM blockchain, the original Cronos chain basically, and then the Cronos Hyperchain that is set for launch later in June. So at the end of the day, I mean, the news here has been pretty good, overall good. I think some of it's a mixed bag, but generally speaking, I think it's been a net positive for CROcoin. And this kind of leads to the question of, why is the market dipping? And or why is CROcoin dipping specifically? And the answer to that is because the market is dipping overall. Okay, I mean, take a look at what's going on here. Like year to date, the returns have not been super pretty for a lot of these projects, aside from the outliers. Always going to be outliers moving the opposite way of the market. But you can basically see here, right? Like a lot of these altcoins have been getting smashed on a year-to-date basis. And CROcoin is definitely no exception to that, right? If we take a look at how CROcoin's doing year-to-date, it's down about 20% year to date. Okay, we can see a lot of these altcoins here, down double digits. Some of them are down single digits, but generally speaking, like most of the market is down in the double digit territory. Even Bitcoin, I think, is down. Let's actually see how Bitcoin's doing year to date. So let's go to Bitcoin, and then let's go to percent, and let's go to year to date. Okay, so Bitcoin's actually only down about 5% on the year, but if we take a look at Bitcoin from that peak at about 48,000 and take a look at where it is now, yeah, it's down about 18%, and at the peak of the drop, it was down about 19.2%. So yeah, when Bitcoin's down that much, you generally would expect altcoins to get smashed, and Crowcoin is simply no exception to that rule. Okay, now the one thing I will say for Crowcoin, we actually zoom out here and take a look at the chart, is I've been talking for a while about the bull market support band being a super important area for Crowcoin. Okay, you can actually see here that it acted as support on the way up. It acted as resistance the entire way down, even here again in 2023. And once Crowcoin actually broke above this bull market support band is when we basically saw a double in the matter of just a couple of weeks. Now, what it is doing here is coming back to retest the bull market support band once again. So personally, I do think this is a little bit of a decision point for Crowcoin at the moment. Okay, I am going to be really eyeing the project this week to see if it does hold the bull market support band. If it does, I would expect it to try and make its way back up to 10 cents. However, if it breaks down here, we definitely could see those lows at about 5 cents be back on the table. So as always, I will keep an eye on what is going on here with the charts and keep you guys up to date on what I am looking for when it comes to this altcoin. And on that note, I hope you did enjoy the content in today's video. You know what to do if you made it all the way to the end. Leave a comment down below. I hope you are all staying happy, safe, and healthy, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Peace out for now.